Kim Iverson is no longer with the Hills show Rising, and she posted a video on her locals community about why. I'm going to play a clip of it in just a second. Basically, it seems like this all came down to the Hill getting an interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci and Kim being excluded from that interview. Kim has been a critic of Dr. Fauci's, of the mandates, though she never says in this video specifically that anyone at the Hill told her directly, hey, we're keeping you out of this interview because we're nervous Dr. Fauci will bail if you're included. There were other reasons, like originally we scheduled it when you wouldn't have been on the clock anyway. And it seems like in the video she doesn't really buy that excuse because she was willing to change her schedule so she could be there for the interview. Let's just listen real fast to this last part of the video she posted on her locals page.
Understanding that viewers' trust is the most important thing. It's the only thing. And the only way to gain and maintain that trust is to keep your integrity. And sometimes, in order to keep your integrity, you have to make a tough choice. So that's it. Going forward, I will be posting Monday through Thursday on my channels on ROKFIN, YouTube, Rumble, and Locals. So you're still going to get those great pieces from me that you're used to getting. You're just going to be seeing them someplace else. And I hope you join me.
So who got to do the interview instead of Kim? On the left, you see Batya Ungar-Sargon. She's actually been on my podcast before. She just wrote a book called Bad News, How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy. She is I think, deputy opinion editor at Newsweek. And then on the right, you see Robbie Suave, I believe is how you say his last name. He writes for Reason. He considers himself a libertarian. I would say he's more a mainline libertarian. And you know, what's funny is that when you look at the comments on this, which I'll show you in just a second, the title they gave the interview, Dr. Anthony Fauci exclusive, which cracks me up because Dr. Fauci's been on a million different news networks and YouTube channels, and particularly YouTube channels that are friendly to him. I mean, remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was like this YouTube influencer partnership with Dr. Fauci and the government officials parading him around so he could spread his message. But somehow this is exclusive to the Hill. I have no idea how it's exclusive, but that's what they're saying. More stringent response had Fauci known then what he knows now. So more stringent response had Fauci known then what he knows now. Just from the title, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, no wonder they did not want Kim Iversen on this interview because, like I said, she was a very vocal critic of his decision-making. Check out the one of the most, anyway, upvoted comments. A couple here, all right? You know Kim is the journalist we need in the world, but not who we deserve when she is so conspicuously absent here. You're doing things the right way, Kim. I hope she takes this as a huge compliment and boost to how much her time and energy is worth. And the second one, ridiculous that Kim would be excluded from this interview. She's the only one on this show with credibility on this topic. And I got to say, I really believe that Kim questioning the narrative the way she did kept the Hill going during the pandemic. As far as viewership was concerned, you know, they lost Crystal and Sagar, which I think hurt the show because they were a very popular draw. Whatever you think of them, there were a lot of people that followed them to their own channel and their own podcast, Breaking Points. When Kim was brought on, I think she brought a perspective that was really needed for this channel, which also then cracks me up because when you read what the Daily Beast wrote, their title is DC Insider Rags Star Conspiracy Theorist Abruptly Exits. So calling her a conspiracy theorist. The Hill has presented itself as an outlet that questions in a different way, has a more populist left and right way of looking at the world. But I think Kim was somebody who pushed the envelope in a way that really helped the conversation. She asked questions that a lot of the other hosts, in fact, all of the other hosts, as far as I've seen, would not ask. She was willing to go into unsafe ideological spaces. And I think that's what what the viewers responded to. In response to a viewer asking, "Where's Kim?" when it comes to this interview, she writes, "Good question." And it sounds like she didn't necessarily even get a whole lot of direct answers from the chief producers at The Hill. And she's going public talking about, I think, a pretty powerful media organization and pushing back on them. So I'm going to give her credit for that too. The fact that she asked questions and she was willing to bring up science that a lot of people would not publicly at an organization like The Hill, which is a pretty mainstream news outlet. She was willing to do that while she was employed there. And she did say that she'd never had anyone tell her, you can't go there, you can't talk about this, you can't ask questions about that, that she felt like she was free to discuss what she felt like was necessary to deliver to the viewers. And that this was the first time that she felt like she had been censored, and that ultimately the reason why she couldn't continue is because then she couldn't, with a straight face or any integrity, continue to tell viewers that no, she's free to talk about the truth. She's not being censored. This is different than mainstream media that you're used to. I'm allowed to take the conversation to those unsafe spaces. And if she couldn't say that anymore, it sounds like she made the choice that she was not going to continue because her integrity was at stake. And that's a really important thing to think about as somebody who's in the independent world, especially because things change on these platforms. The people are moving jobs and starting new podcasts and doing all this stuff differently depending on where the market is or what the censorship rules are or what platform opens up. But the one thing that follows you wherever you go, no matter what technology is there, what platform exists, is your integrity. And you take that, whatever state it's in, you take that wherever you go. And so I give her a lot of props. I've talked quite a bit about my experience working at the Washington Department of Natural Resources, it was my day job, shooting wildfire videos for the state of Washington. It's the wildfire fighting force for the state. And I kept my podcast totally separate from that, never talked about it, did it on my own time with my own equipment. And I was still fired because they told me that I was not allowed to in any way talk to somebody publicly on my podcast who undermined vaccine mandates as they saw it. They saw it as undermining vaccine mandates. And I was allowed to make the choice, if I wanted to stop talking to those people and just do a safe podcast and keep my cushy state job. And at the end of the day, there really was no choice for me because choosing opposite of my integrity was not an option. And so people say like, well, you made the right choice or you made a hard choice. And to me, it wasn't a choice. And I kind of hear that in Kim's voice too. It's not really a choice. If you get it, if you see clearly, it's like, there's only one way. And taking your integrity intact is the only way, because at the end of the day, then you're just stuck taking jobs, bouncing around where integrity is not that big of a deal. And she's right that that viewers see that. Again, this just goes to show how a lot of these outlets have totally lost their connection. I don't even like using the word trust, because I really don't want to encourage people to trust the media. I want to encourage people to ask questions and be skeptical of everybody. And that goes for me and the people that I have on this podcast. Don't just trust, do the research and ask the questions and have your own integrity guide you. But it's absolutely ridiculous to call her a conspiracy theorist. The reality is she was asking questions, like I said, that a lot of people had, including doctors and scientists. And she was showing data that doctors and scientists were also trying to present on platforms that had basically become adversarial to the scientific process. And that was why she was so popular. And that's why the show continued to be popular, because she was willing to be the voice of a lot of people out there who felt very disenfranchised and ignored during the last couple of years, and who had very valid questions. And I'm not just talking about Joe Citizen. I'm talking about longtime practicing doctors and longtime practicing scientists. She was bringing up their perspective. And apparently now that's conspiracy theory. But it just goes to show that even in an outlet like The Hill, which is purporting itself to be sort of more young and edgier content, or just CNN, there are places that are safe and places that are not. And when she was describing the way that they got the interview with Fauci, it just seemed like that she said they had asked who would be the hosts, that Fauci's people asked who would be the hosts. And they had agreed on those two hosts, Robbie Suave and Batya Ungar-Sargon, and did not include Kim in the initial name list. And they said, she said again, that it had to do with scheduling. And she asked them to go back and say, well, no, Kim Iverson can be there too. She's going to be there. And apparently they didn't. And that's also another thing I'd like to bring up in this too, that a lot of times with interviews in mainstream media, that kind of conversation is happening on a regular basis. You know, who's going to be the person interviewed? Who's going to be there, and who's asking the questions, and what are the questions? Send us the questions ahead of time. And then you sometimes even get requests for review, right? We've talked about this on this channel before, how like the White House wants to review quotes before you can quote directly any staff that they deem worthy to do the interview. They want to look over the quote first. And so anyway, that's what's going on. Like I said, I hope Kim will come on the show and talk about it. I've reached out to her again at this point, have not heard back. I have talked to Kim in the past. She seems like a genuine person who is really trying to get to the bottom of a lot of the big issues out there. And does she get things right all the time? No. But I do get the sense that she's authentically trying to figure things out. And, I don't know what's going to happen with The Hill, but I do also think this is not good for them. I think she was one of the main folks, if not the only one, holding that show for the questioners, holding it afloat for the questioners over the last couple of years. And whatever the next thing is, we'll see. We'll see how the remaining hosts handle it. I think they bring some interesting perspectives, but like I said, I think Kim was willing to uniquely take the perspective to the places that were hidden from view over the last couple of years, but represented a significant amount of the population. And that's why people were watching her reports on The Hill. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Are you going to keep watching The Hill if you were a Rising fan? Are you going to keep watching now that Kim's gone? What do you think about her departure? Don't forget, you can support my sponsors in the links below. There's wine, there's coffee. If you go to AllisonWinePromo.com, you get 50% off of my favorite Malbecs from Argentina and 50% off shipping. These are high altitude Malbecs. That means the grapes work harder under the sun, which affects the flavor of the wine. Very robust. It also means fewer pesticides. You can also get some USDA certified organic high altitude Nicaraguan roast from my other sponsor, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. There's a light roast, there's a dark roast, there's a limited black edition, which is very good. There's also a Katura tea, which is tea made from the coffee fruit. And I like to cold brew mine 24 hours. It's very good. So go check out my sponsors. Thanks again for watching the video, and I will see you next time.